Hello all, welcome to Up The Poshcast, the Poshcast made by the fans for the fans. Grab yourself a drink, put your feet up and listen in. And by the way, there could be some strong language.
Hello everybody and welcome to this week's episode of Up The Poshcast. Today we're going to be discussing the Notts County game in depth and we'll be talking about the squad depth a little bit. But realistically, we're just going to be talking about the Notts County game, and I'll give my opinion first before I throw to the floor. I think we were really quite good in the Notts County game. The first game, I did feel like we were a little bit boring, to say the least. I didn't feel like that attractive style of football that Darren Ferguson usually plays, especially last season, was there. And I feel like that's something that we will improve on. You've got to remember last year when we kicked off against Reading, it wasn't attractive at all. It was a very scrappy win. And then you've got to think of the four losses on the bounce before we started that big unbeaten streak that we had. I think realistically, the Notts County game gave us a good prediction as to what our starting lineup is going to be this time around. I think if Hector Cipriano is fit, I think it's actually nailed on. You drop O'Brien Brady out. I think with Nevitt with his wrist that seems to be injured, you're going to have Wallin and Manny Fernandez at the back with Sparks and Sam Curtis, Cipriano, Collins, Randall, and then Chris Clark, Poku, and the striker is to be debated. I personally think it will be Ricky J. Jones, but I don't think my opinion is echoed throughout this podcast, so we can speak about that as well. First game was great. It was a bit boring, but I thought there were some standout performances, especially from Brian Brady and Con Clark. I like the way Con Clark has that sort of bite about him and can sort of do it himself, which I feel like we've missed. Especially with the Mason Clark leaving, I feel like we've missed that sort of section that of our attack with the bite, and I feel like Chris Clark has that over Ado, who I think takes a little bit too long to think about what he wants to do when he gets into that final third. I feel like Chris Clark doesn't, and he knows what he wants to do before he even touches the ball, which I think is an amazing attribute to have. Brian Brady was amazing, as I've already said. And Wallin also looked very calm and composed in that first 11. And I think he's going to be a player, especially whenever it's back who can play the ball. He's a big physical presence. And that height at the back also makes you, sort of think that we're going to defend set pieces a lot better. So I'll throw to John. I know I've said my vague thoughts, but John, feel free to delve into an opinion a little bit more if you like.
Yeah, so I was thinking the first half, obviously the main interest was in the new players for me. I think obviously Wallin caught the eye, I would say. We didn't know anything about him, but obviously the fact that he comes from a foreign league is immediately makes you think, oh, this is quite an exciting signing just because it's so different. And I was really encouraged by his performance. He started on the right-hand side of defence and he looked comfortable there. He switched to the left-hand side of the defence in the second half. And I thought he was really comfortable there too. Whereas Manny Fernandez, I thought looked half decent on the right-hand side of defence, but he really struggled on the left. So the fact that Wallin can play both sides of that defence suggests that technically he has the capabilities to play there. There was also a couple of runs forward that he made that were very Ronnie Edwards-like, and I like that. That was really encouraging. New league for him, new style, new teammates, only been in the country, a week. To put in a performance like that where he looked so comfortable, I thought it was a really, really good showing for his first game. Of the other new players, Sam Curtis, I just thought it was a really fairly anonymous performance. I didn't think he was good, but I didn't think he was bad either. There just wasn't too much to get to report on really. My one concern is he got caught out at the back post twice from crosses. Whether that will be St. Huddersfield target, I don't know. They probably haven't seen enough of him. Whether that will be a theme of the season, again, I don't know. But that was a concern for me that he got caught out from crosses, and I really hope that was just the fact that he doesn't know his team, etc., rather than an issue with his marking that needs to be developed. But obviously, signing an 18-year-old without any senior experience really in England, there's arguably going to be flaws. Jack Sparks, I thought, put in a decent showing, a couple of sloppy moments in possession, but again, he hasn't played a huge amount of football in pre-season, so I'm hoping with match sharpness he'll improve. And then of the new boys, Con Clark, he doesn't even feel that new now because he came in so early in the summer. I feel like I've already seen him a little bit. But I thought he stood out again on the left this time rather than down the centre. Showed good trickery, willing to get off a shot. Passing was good. Just about everything you could want from that sort of attacking player. And I think of the new signings, maybe other than Nevitt, he's definitely shown that he could be a real find, and I'm very excited to see how he does in League One this season.
Yeah, so I'd like to sort of pick up on Fernandes. Obviously, there's been some relatively low match ratings for him within our group. I do feel like yesterday was a little bit of a stitch-up for him, if I'm being completely honest. He's played the right side centre-back all the way through pre-season with Nevitt alongside him. He's then been chucked in at on the left side with Sparks, who he's not played with before, unless Sparks played in the Colchester friendly. But obviously, we've not seen any of that, so we can't really comment on it. And he's got a brand new centre-back partner. So I think that maybe people saying that he was poor was probably a little bit harsh. Yes, he made some bad passes, but after that, I thought he was relatively consistent in the game, and he then carried it on and ultimately kept a clean sheet. That is what defenders are judged for. I did really enjoy the fact that we had Fernandes and Wallin that really towered above everybody else on the pitch. It was very clear that they were going to be aerially dominant for us this season. And then when you chuck in Nevitt into that, we've gone from sort of being what I would call a relatively short centre-back pairing last season. And we're now going to tower above people and hopefully score lots of goals from corners and not concede many goals. The only other person then would be Con Clark to comment on. He did look like he had that like nitty-gritty about him. He made a few tackles. I think it was probably 3 within the first 10 minutes. Maybe any other somebody might have booked him. It's giving shades of Lee Tomlin, that's for sure. And I think that he's definitely got that flair and sort of that he doesn't really care what people think. Just to sort of double down on where we were from last season, Randall starting in the 10 again and Con Clark having to move out to the left was quite interesting, I thought, just because it sort of meant that we know that we're going to sort of stick with Randall again and play him. And we've sort of had to shoehorn Con Clark into the team so that he has somewhere to play because his performances in pre-season have been so good.
Sorry, let me carry on. Basically, what I was impressed with is the fact we played a stronger team of the two, first of all, which kept people in there. When I say the strongest team, obviously the majority. There was a few decent performances. I disagree with Manny. I'm not a fan, and I probably never will be. I just don't think he's a very good footballer. Also, keep going on about him. Ricky, again, I don't think was all that great. Did like CCC, whatever you want to call him, Con Clark. Got into some good positions. Did think he was a little bit greedy at times, but that's what makes you a good forward, I suppose. The two new guys, left back, right back, didn't have an issue with them. I don't think they were spectacular without being, outrageously good. They were steady, nothing special. I did like the way Sparks was going forward. He reminded me a bit of, I forgot his name again. Kioso. Shit, I generally have forgot his name. Bit of Kioso going forward on down the right. Probably better at attacking than was defending, but you could see that a few times where he was overlapping and even running through the middle, which was encouraging to get him forward. So the first game was a little bit flat, but it's a good performance and some meh performances, if I'm honest. I actually watched the first game in the family stand, which is unusual for me, but I was over there. And then I decided to move to the main stand for the second game, where I come and joined Ash and obviously see you over there, Max. So that was the first game, my views.
Yeah, and I think it's all really good that I think we're all on the same page. I will just ask Del, because you did bring up obviously Ricky. and I know you're not his biggest lover. But I just wanted to get your opinion, obviously, to move into second game. I do just want to make a point about Warlin, but I will do in a second. But would you have Malik play as our number one striker, or would you prefer to get somebody else through the door?
Okay, so at the moment, I would 100% start with Malik if we haven't got anybody else. It depends who we do bring in. If we was to bring anybody in, there's absolutely no way would I be starting with Ricky. If anything, what's his name, Wakeling, who we've just let go of Gillingham, who I think has scored again today, but scored his first goal from. I would have probably had him as number 2 and then Ricky third or even fourth, depending on who else there is. I honestly believe that Malik will have something to. I think he'll be good this season because he has got something about him. I'd like to think that's going to start coming to fruition this season. Get himself in, but yeah, he's all right. But yeah, I would go with Malik 100%.
Yeah,
how can you say that you'd have Wakeling over Ricky J. Jones? Like, Wakeling was terrible last season, and the fact that he scored against Stamford and Boston and Woking for Gillingham does not put him ahead of a striker that scored 10 goals for us last season. Wakeling didn't look like he could get a goal for love nor money last season. He was awful at Carlisle away when he came on in his cameo. That was worse performance than Ricky's ever put in.
Okay, I would have Wakeling over Ricky J. Jones. He might have scored 10 in a season. He's had his chance for the last 3-4 years. I'd give Wakeling a chance. That's my opinion, 100%. Although Ricky, he does, as you said last week, he does press a bit, but I don't think he's a very good footballer. What I've seen with Wakeling, I know it's only Stamford, and I know it's only, who was it, Woking they played today, whoever you said. He's got himself in those positions to score the goals. It's irrelevant who the opposition is. I actually think he's going to be a good player for Gillingham this year, and it may be an error us letting him go there, or what we've all been arguing about for the last few, since we started the show, is we don't get players out on loan quick enough or the wrong time. This may be the right time for him to go out on loan, and he may come back the better person.
Yeah, so I think what everybody forgets is that the key to our success last season was Ricky's press. Yes, there was lots of midfield dominance and dominance on the ball at the back, but the space was created by Ricky and pushing teams back towards their own goalkeeper. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but he set the tone in many a game from minute one and put the press onto the goalkeeper, put the press onto the centre backs or the left back or the right back, and made sure that they knew that he was going to be there for however many minutes he had in that game. The flip side of that is that I do think that we should be starting with Mother Seal, Carm at Huddersfield. I think that we need to get out of the blocks early. They're a relegated team from last season. We want to sort of set the tone again. Right, yes, 2 years of disappointment in the playoffs, but we're back. We're ready to go again. Let's go out. Malik to score a hat-trick straight off the bat. Bring Ricky on with 30 minutes to go. And then just say, look, we're here. We're here. We're not going to drop off. Yes, people are doubting us again like they do most seasons, but we're here to stay. That's my view on it, is that we're doing that thing where we slander one of our own academy products, but we know that he's not perfect and he's not the finished article, but he's still got lots to improve on. But we're saying about Wakeling being a natural finisher, and being in the right positions. But Ricky was in the right positions last year. He just didn't have that natural finishers. It's not the skill, is it? It's just the ability. Like, if he's been told to work on certain things throughout the season, like ultimately for the last 3 seasons, like I said last week, he's been working on his fitness to make sure that he can play 50 games in a season. And that's probably what his focus has been on. He's not been able to do the technical stuff because he's been focusing on getting fit and so that he can get out on the pitch. Like, Wakeling is now doing what Wakeling maybe is a better finisher, but if you're talking about the priority list, it's Malik, then it's Ricky, and then it's Wakeling, which is why Wakeling's gone out on loan.
I do have an opinion on this matter, and I will just bring this up. After our 5-1 thrashing against Cobblers at home. I have a flatmate who is a Cobblers fan, and I was speaking to him after the game, and I asked him what you think was his what was Cobblers' downfall. You know, they scored the first goal and then they sort of collapsed. I asked him what he thought was the problem, and to echo Ash's point, he said word for word, Ricky Jones' press is relentless. And it terrified them. They couldn't play out the back. They couldn't play their football because of his press. And that's why I think he should start over Malik against Huddersfield, because his press and his ability to use his pace in very smart ways is really quite good. And it terrifies teams, especially those that might be scrapping for relegation or scrapping for mid-table positions. They don't have the ability to play out the back like we did last season, and we still do this season with Nevitt. And I will just throw to Del because I feel like we've all come at him on his opinion. Del, my question is that the goals that we scored last season, do you think that we would have got into those positions if Ricky Jones wasn't our number 9?
Some yes, some no. My argument is I just think he's had 3-4 years and he's still not really getting where he needs to be. And I said that on the show last week. This is my opinion. You know, people will never, ever, ever, ever change my opinion of what I think unless I sort of change it myself. I do hope the lad does well. I really do. And I feel bad sometimes singling him out. But my opinion is I don't think he's a very good footballer. All this pressing, and I do agree, I do like a presser like the Craig Macklesmith, who's meant to be giving Ricky Jones some lessons. But at least with Craig Macklesmith, he did actually know where the goal was eventually. Took him a few efforts to get it in, but, you know, you don't score like 99 goals without being shit. I'm not sure we're going to get that with Ricky, if I'm totally honest. So if we just want a presser, we might as well just go and find somebody that runs quick and can run at the goalkeeper. No footballing ability, if that's what we're looking for. I just think he needs to have more footballing ability to be a success. That is my opinion. You've all had a fucking go at me. I'm having a go at you. You're all wrong.
So just I think we'll probably do more on Ricky as the season goes on. So I think one thing I would like to say is obviously in the second game, I think Malik Mothersill gave Fergie a proper headache over who he picked Saturday. I think the first team, as we said, was very much the team that Ferguson had in his head for Huddersfield. But I think Malik's performance has probably given him a question mark over who he starts up front. And I think that's the biggest question mark going into the weekend now is who do we start as our main man up front? And I think if you look at the two performances of the players, and if you want to judge it on the game before the season starts, I think you have to hedge towards Mothersill. I think Ricky was okay. He made a couple of runs in behind the back line in the first game, but I think Malik's overall performance in the second game was clearly superior. I know one of his goals was a penalty, took the penalty very, very well. And then his second goal was a really tidy finish. I thought he finished it excellently, actually. And just more than that, it was his link-up play that caught the eye and stood out. And he is a more tidy footballer than Ricky. So I think for me now, and I'm Ricky's biggest defender, for me at this stage, I think I want Mothersill to start up front on Saturday, and I think he earned it. I think there was two real performances in that second half team that probably gave Ferguson some thought, and the other one was Hayes. I actually thought Hayes was really, really good, and I think Hayes has had a really positive pre-season. I don't think Hayes will start for what it's worth. I think there's more of an argument for Mothersill to start than Hayes, but I think Hayes' game where he picks it up and he flicks it around corners and he's quick off the mark, it's a lot different to how Randall plays it. Randall sort of picks it up, releases it. He's clever with his passing, but you know he doesn't really accelerate away from defenders. So I think those were the two key dilemmas. But what is good about this is we're now having debates over who should start in what position in the forward line. Because last season, the only option we had was to throw Ajiboye on. And we know Ajiboye he's okay, but he's not amazing, is he, at League One? Or we had Clark Harris, who was ill-suited to the system. We now have genuine options in almost every one of them forward positions, which is definitely good, and it's a positive change from last season.
Okay, John, do you know what? I feel that I've won the argument already, because last pod you was like, Ricky, you're doing this, doing the press, doing this, but today, like, you think Mothersill should start ahead of Ricky J. Jones?
No, I don't think.
Well,
I don't think.
that. That's exactly what you said.
Yeah, let me come back. Let me come back at you. So just because I think Ricky is probably going to be the main man over the course of the season, it's horses for courses, right? And tip players come out in and out of form, and we have two strikers that I think are relatively similar in ability. I don't think either of them are proven. I've said that on multiple podcasts. I think both of them have different questions to answer. Ricky has to answer about his finishing. Mothersill has to answer questions about how involved he wants to be in the game and whether he can occupy defenders. And actually, often you watch Mothersill play and he feels like he's on the outskirts of games when he was starting last season. He doesn't feel that involved and he doesn't press like Ricky does. However, I think you have to look at form at the minute, because I don't think there's a clear front runner for that striking position, which is something that we all agree on, I think. And at the minute, I think Mothersill was probably edged pre-season over Ricky J. Jones. So that is why I'm starting with Mothersill at the weekend. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't think Ricky's very good or he's the second choice striker. That means that this particular time and this particular stage of the season, I think Mothersill probably is the option.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I disagree with John. I think Ricky J. Jones is and should be our striker. I think maybe he misses the chances, but we had Malek and Poku to put the chances that he missed away, and we still won a lot of games. And you know, the one at Derby is the biggest one where he took that chance, and his pace and his ability to threaten back lines is something that I haven't seen in a player. But having said that, we've had an excellent discussion on Malek and Ricky and the improvements we've made as well, because I think Malek has grown into his game. And we now have two really good prominent strikers in terms of depth. I want to know, Ashley, I'll throw to you. I want to know about squad depth in particular, because I don't know whether you'll share my view, but I think defensively, we're in a really bad spot in terms of depth, whereas offensively and in the midfield, I think we're okay.
It's a difficult one with depth, because we've put out 2 11s, so we have the players. Are they the standard that we need them to be to really push on and take us to where we want to be this season? I'm not entirely sure, but that being said, I think that when you look at we're good. Top half of the pitch, we're good. Midfield, I'm a little bit concerned at the moment with Hector being injured, De Havilland being injured, which sort of leaves us with Collins, O'Brien, Brady, and then the 2 trialists that we're going to sign hopefully on Monday. I'm not sure that they're ready for that step up to be playing week in, week out. O'Brien, Brady, very comfortable with him, but equally I would like him to be a cup performer and come into the team to replace one of Hector or Archie Collins. And then I believe it or not, I actually think that we're pretty good at the back. I like the Curtis and Dornelli rotation that we've got. I'm a little bit disappointed for Dornelli that we've sort of brought somebody in that is maybe an equal standard to him. Maybe obviously better, but in experience sense, Dornelli's got more experience for Posh and in League One, whereas Curtis's experience is coming from somewhere else. So that's slightly disappointing that we've maybe not brought in somebody as an understudy to Dornelli to push him on and say that he's got somebody chasing his tail. Left back, it's a difficult one with Harley Mills because he blows hot or cold. I think like sometimes he's fantastic. We know that he's got that ability to put a ball in like Burrows does. And like I mentioned to you yesterday, Max, when we were sat near each other, it's like he feels like in 2 years' time, Harley Mills will be what Harrison Burrows was last season. But we're not talking about 2 years' time. We're talking about now. Will he be okay in the cup games? Yes, I'm comfortable with that. And then realistically, I think that with Never injured, I'm not concerned with starting Manny next to Wallin next week. That is what it is. My concern is that if one of those two does get injured, then we are a little bit short. So centre back, midfielder, they're the only two that I think that we need at the moment.
Okay, well, I actually sort of disagree. As it stands from a midfield point of view, I'm quite happy with the midfield that we have actually got. I do like what's his name, Brian Brady. Honestly, seriously, if anybody knows me, I'm so fucking shit at getting players' names right. But anyway, the guy in the middle, I like the look of him. I actually think he's going to be an additional. What I am a little bit concerned about is whether some of these rumours are true about Hector on his way out the club. That would be disappointing for me. But again, these are all rumours, so hopefully that's not going to happen. I do believe we need a centre back. I will agree with Ash that maybe if we've had to play Manny at the back, I'd rather have Manny play on Saturday than Critchlow, because Critchlow is fucking awful. I genuinely can't believe how bad he is. I can't believe you're laughing at me, but anyway, we'll move on. And up front, I think we need a new striker. That is really, really about it. Midfield's good. Defender, centre back, maybe a good striker. That's my view. Oh, and also the two loan signing, the two trialists that we had. What's his name? Tyler Young and Mikhail Bogle. I'm led to believe they're both being signed on Monday. If that's the case, I'm happy with that. But they're in depth. They're ones for the future, not necessarily for now. So sorry, that's me done.
Yeah, I think at this stage, anyone that saying they have the utmost confidence that Peterborough United are going to be in a promotion race again is probably guessing. And that might sound a little bit harsh, but ultimately we lost 4 of our best 5 players last season, I think, over the summer in Knight, Burrows, Edwards, Mason Clark. And then if you add Kyoso to that as well, that's 5 players that are now playing at championship level or above. So Premier League, 1 went to the Bundesliga, 2, and then the 3 are in the championship. So that's 5 genuinely high quality players for League One that have gone. We've replaced them with players that, let's face it, none of us really know that much about. George and Evatt looked very good in pre-season. Chris Conclark looked very good in pre-season. We've only really seen them against non-league teams. It's a big step up for Conclark to come in and replace Mason Clark, who for the first half of last season was probably the best player in the division. It's a big step up for George and Evatt to go and replace a player that's just gone and stepped up to the Premier League. These are big steps. Oscar Wallin, none of us know anything about him. Sam Curtis, none of us know anything about him. So really, you're gambling on the fact that Peterborough United's recruitment is going to be great. And our recruitment is generally great. So I'm very much hoping that the case is that we've got it exactly right and we're going to be as good as we were last season. However, at the minute, I think all you can do is hope. I don't think you can make a certain prediction that we're in a stronger place than we were last season. Now, if I was put in charge of transfers until the end of the month, I think we desperately need another centre-back. And by a centre-back, I mean a starting centre-back. I would like somebody to come in and probably give Wallin the time to adjust to a new league and a new level. Whilst he sits in the background. Now, he might be a world beater, but it's never easy stepping from the Swedish second division into English football. He's just going to need time, I think. Beyond that, I want another centre midfielder. I think I've spoken about this before, but O'Brien Brady was a number 10 for the under-21s. If he's now our third choice to step in, if Cipriano and Collins are out, it's a big step for him to be playing in a new position in a first team when he's basically got no senior experience. So I think we need another central midfielder. And I would go and buy a striker. I would love us to spend big on a striker and another attacker that you know is really going to guarantee us goals, because we have lost a lot of goals over the summer. We've lost Johnson Clark-Harris. We've lost Mason Clark. We've lost Harrison Burrows. That's 40 goals. That's 40 goals gone from this team, I reckon. And that's going to be hard, very hard to replace with Hayes, Ado, Conclark. I mean, again, we're talking about big step ups for these players. So I would love us to go and spend big if we've got the budget. And I really hope that we do, especially if Tony does get that move, if Smodix does get that move, to go and make a statement signing. And they're sort of the 3 key areas that I think we're probably missing. But even beyond that, I think you're almost guessing and hoping and thinking with your heart rather than your head at the minute, because we just haven't seen this team on the pitch enough.
Hello.
Well, sorry, I will wrap up. Sorry, I apologise. Well, I will just wrap up quickly and discuss the second game. I agree with you, John, in the fact that if Tony and Schmolix goes, we could make a statement signing. There's been a few rumours in the works, especially in the department of Dane Scarlett, who I'd really enjoy. I don't think Spurs are ever going to use him. I think they'll look to get him off the wage bill and bring somebody else in, especially with some of the signings they've made. So I do think Scarlett is an option, but I don't really know. That would be a statement if we got him on a perm, for example. But to wrap up, I'll just conclude about the second game. I do agree with the comments that were made on Hayes. I don't think he will start, but he will get us off our feet. And in the second game, 4-3, it really exposed our lack of depth in centre back, especially with Ollie Rose and Critchlow. I thought were both poor, and I think Ollie Rose was quite good against lower opposition, but I don't think he's cut out for this league. So I think. Actually, I agree in terms of squad depth. I think we need a centre back through the door, especially with Nevitt being out. And I think we also need a left back. But I will just throw to Ashley before we end about the two games. What did you think about them, especially the second game? And how do you feel that we're going to fare?
So the second game, for what it's worth, that was very much Peterborough United for me. I enjoyed it. It was 4-3. It was like relentless. You didn't know who was going to win the game. We were clear at one point, and then we started throwing away sloppy decisions, and then all of a sudden we're winning the game again. That was fantastic for me. The first game, similar to the second 60 minutes at Boston, it did feel like it was a little bit more toned down and a little bit more plain. Which, if that's what we're going to go with, then that's fine. But we all know how we like to play. We all know how we like to watch Posh play. I would just rather we take more from the second game and give it to those players that are playing in the first game. But overall, I think we're sort of waiting now. It's going to be a long 6 days waiting for Huddersfield to come around, especially with it being the 5:30 kickoff. That's a nasty one, that is, knowing that it's not going to be the 3 o'clocker. But I'm excited. I'm maybe more confident and got a little bit more blind faith in our recruitment than everybody else has. We'll see. But I'm confident that we've made the right decisions and we aren't making the mistakes in the recruitment like we used to.
Yeah, and I think in terms of squad depth and predictions and obviously the longer wait for Huddersfield, we'll cover that all on Wednesday, which we're going to have a nice extra episode for you guys on our pre-season predictions, as well as talking about the squad in more depth, which is going to be an amazing episode, and I think it's going to be probably one of our best, and that will be out on Friday. So that will be released Friday. So you guys will be able to listen to that, which will be very good. But I agree with Ash as well on the second game, and yeah, I think that's all from us as a group. So thank you very much for listening or watching if you're on YouTube. And as always, up the Posh. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you.
Thank you all for listening. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Up The Poshcast. Let us know your feedback. Give us any ideas for topics you would like to discuss or any questions you'd like us to answer. Up The Poshcast.
Up The Poshcast.